Alright, so I just hit 30 subscribers. So, as a celebration to that, I'm going to make a part 2 to showing off my bug collection. And this time, instead of showing off the unusual looking wasps, I'm going to show off the bees. And they're pretty cool to look at, so. So for Christmas, I got these bug drawers. They used to be in here, but I moved them to these because they're a lot more high quality. So down here, if we go to the very bottom, we got the ants. I have to set down the camera to do this because I don't want to drop these precious specimens. So, alright, here it is, the bug drawer with bees. So as you can see, I don't have as many bees as I do with wasps because there's not as many families of bees as there is for ants and wasps. There's actually 7 families of bees, if I can remember. I think that's how many families there were. And the biggest is this one right here, Apidae, the family of honey bees, cuckoo bees, carpenter bees, bumblebees, and digger bees. And then there's a bunch of other smaller families like these over here. Alright, the first family of bees we're going to be looking at is this one right here, Halictidae. This is the family of sweat bees. They have some pretty interesting looking bees in this family, and they're pretty small too. They get their name from drinking salt water or sweat. Alright, first off is the common sweat bee. As the name implies, they are common, and they are white, yellow, and black in color. They're pretty small. This is my pointer finger next to it. Alright, this one right here is called the Agaposman sweat bee. These are interesting because they are half green and half black and yellow. And they are pretty interesting and also pretty small and not easy to find either. Alright, this is also a different type of Agaposman sweat bees. Instead of half of their body being yellow and black, they are white and black. And other than that, they're pretty much the same as what I just showed you before this, except for they're slightly bigger. They also look pretty cool under a microscope. Alright, this is the metallic green sweat bee. They're completely green, and these are actually a lot more common than you think. I actually see these a lot, and they're really cool. The next family is Adrenidae. This is the family of mining bees. They're also home to the fairy bee, the smallest bee in the world. This one right here isn't the exact smallest. There's several different species of fairy bees, but that's one of them. As weird as it sounds, these top 3 are actually unnamed mining bees. Each one has its own different markings. This one is yellow and black. This one is like a grayish yellow and black. And this one is a gray, white, and black. These are the more interesting looking mining bees. This one is a neighborly mining bee. Caught this in Minnesota. This one right here is the most interesting looking one I have. The large scabious mining bee. They are exploding with a bunch of random colors that don't even go together. This right here is the fairy bee. Really small, but pretty cool. Alright, this is Megachilidae, the family of leafcutter bees and mason bees. And this is also home to the largest bee in the world, called the Wallace's giant bee, or the scientific name Megachile pluto. They were thought to be extinct until in 2019, 2 people went into the Amazon rainforest and found one alive and proved everyone wrong. They're extremely big. They get up to 2 inches. This is the alfalfa leafcutter bee. They're pretty common. And do you remember that video I posted night hunting? And I showed you that bee box? There were alfalfa leafcutter bees in there. This is the patchwork leafcutter bee. And what's interesting about these is that if you look underneath their abdomen, you can see there's tons of pollen all over it. And if you look at it under the microscope, you'll see this. They stick it to little hairs on their abdomen, then scrape it off and make a big clump of it in their nest to feed to their babies. This is the blue orchard bee. They get their name from being blue and making nests near orchards and pollinating the trees. I caught this back in 2020. They just have such cool colors. This is another species of orchard bee under the microscope, and it looks really cool. Alright, this is Apidae, the largest family of bees, and this is the family of common bees and rare bees, all at the same time. Alright, this is the most common bee in existence, the western honeybee. This is what you think of when you hear the word bee. These are the species of bees that live in colonies and that people actually own and harvest honey from. And if you look at it under the microscope, you'll see that its hair is stuck together by beeswax. And speaking of beeswax, when you look at this, you'd probably think it smells horrible, but it actually smells like beeswax. This is the golden northern bumblebee. These are not common, but they're also not uncommon. And they're very fuzzy and yellow. Look at that side view. When they're alive, they're pretty intimidating and pretty cool to look at. This is Bombus occidentalis, the western bumblebee. They are look very similar to the yellow-faced bumblebee, except for they have more yellow, and the yellow-faced bumblebee has white fur instead of yellow fur. This is Bombus impatiens, the impatient bumblebee. I'm just kidding, this is the common eastern bumblebee. They are very big, and I caught this in my friend's front yard. Now this was the one I was talking about earlier, the yellow-faced bumblebee. I mean, its face is a little bit yellow, but it's more white than it is yellow. Anyways, I caught this at the Oregon coast. There's lots of bumblebees that live there. Cool place to visit, too. They're very common there, too. Now, this is definitely the largest bee in Idaho. This is Bombus grisicaulis, the brown-belted bumblebee. They get their name from the brown belt they have right there. Doesn't look brown, but it sort of is. They are very, very big and fuzzy. This is the Hunt's bumblebee. They are yellow, black, and orange, and they have an orange stripe on their abdomen. They are often confused with the tricolored bumblebee. I would know, but there's one little detail about them that separates the two. This is a sunflower bee, and they get their name from pollinating sunflowers more than any other plant. They have really fuzzy legs that they use to stick pollen onto and take back to their nest. And they're really weird and interesting looking. Next up is the longhorn bee, and I think you might be able to figure out where they get their name. And what's weird is it's actually the males that get the long antenna. The females don't get that. Next up is the cuckoo bee. They're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I can't believe I just said that. This is one of the larger species. The others get no bigger than a centimeter. Now we're in my favorite bee genus, Xylocopa, the genus of carpenter bees. This is the eastern carpenter bee, and they're often mixed up with the eastern bumblebee. The way you can tell is the eastern carpenter bee, their abdomens are shiny. The bumblebee's abdomen is fuzzy. They're also pests because they make their nests in wood. And I'm on both sides on that one because I don't like killing bees, but I also don't like ruined houses. So I don't know what side to join on that one. Anyways, next up is the California carpenter bee, or the western carpenter bee. They're the largest bee in North America. When they're alive, their shiny abdomens glimmer a bluish-greenish color, and their wingspan is also very impressive, and they look really cool. Now, this species is the valley carpenter bee. They're very similar to the western carpenter bee, which is what I just showed you, but the difference between them is their wings are a lighter color and they're a lot more fuzzy. Next up is probably the coolest bee in existence, the blue carpenter bee. They live in Asia, and they get more blue than this, because this one's dead, and really old. And I had to rehydrate it twice because it was a dried specimen. But you can still tell it's blue, so that's good. And I really like this specimen. So there you go, that was the 30 subscribers special, and all my bees. Stay tuned, because during spring break, we're going to go to a really cool place to go camping, and we're going to see lots of cool bugs. Once we get to 40 subscribers, I'll show another part of my bug collection. Also, check out my community posts. I still want to know what you want me to make a video on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.